Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Again, I apologize for not being on camera. As you know, my tripod head was shipped out to get fixed. It has been fixed and is now being shipped back to me. As soon as the tripod arrives back, I can mount my camera again and go back on camera for my videos. But in any case, there's so much going on. I have to talk to you guys about it. You just have to bear with me without having a camera to see me. But anyways, I just wanted to do a separate video, even though I just mentioned this in my last two videos, talking about Eric Molitor. Eric is one of 5 men total who was acquitted in the FBI's Governor Whitmer Fednapping hoax. And Eric has had a very hard time with everything he's gone through. First, let me just show you some pictures of him when I interviewed him with his family. These are his 2 children, and he's there with his mom. This is from when I interviewed them for the documentary, which of course you guys will see when the documentary comes out. But he is obviously, he's a family man. You know, he is a father, he loves his children, and he's just really gone through a lot. So I'm going to bring up his GiveSendGo fundraiser to share with you guys, because I'm so proud of him for making this. I know it's something he struggled with. Asking for help is hard. I've had to learn that as I've had to humble myself to ask for help from you guys to finish the documentary, and you guys have been so helpful. So I just wanted to share this with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and read from this. He says, "My name is Eric Molitor. I was falsely accused of taking part in a fake plot to," and I'm going to add some of my own commentary, obviously, "in a fake plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And I will add that the only people who did any plotting was, of course, the FBI and their network of provocateurs. I won't even call them informants because of the connotation and definition of that word. By definition, they were not informing on a crime already in motion. They were instigating and attempting to provoke something which they could never do and never got off the ground and couldn't get anybody to go along with it. So they were acting as agents provocateur. That is the correct definition of to describe their behavior. My residence," so this is his home was raided by over 40 different FBI agents with state and local law enforcement. On October 7, 2020, they pointed weapons at my mom, sister, cousins, one of whom is a child, my nephew, my son, and my daughter. And as you saw from the pictures, his kids are young. Okay, they've gone through a lot, and I've had the opportunity to talk to his children more than one time. I've met them more than once, and I can tell you that they are very mature for their age, and you can tell just by talking to these young children that they have been through and seen a lot. And, you know, they don't trust the FBI, and it's like a child at that age shouldn't even know what the FBI is. But imagine you're a child and you've had swarms of agents come onto your property like they're conducting a military raid in a foreign country or something, like it's Afghanistan, and they all point their guns, big guns at you in your face. Like, how would you feel as a child? I think that might destroy your innocence, don't you think? They pulled up in an armored vehicle. They use MRAPs in full military kit, consisting of military camp clothing, ballistic armor, ballistic helmets with night vision goggles, and of course, major weaponry. I spent 3 months in jail over a government setup and FBI lies. Spent the next 3 years waiting for the trial. And you know why it took 3 years? Well, because you can't have a trial for people that you're charging with, quote, providing material support for T, if there is no act of T, right? So at the first federal trial, the government came away with 0 convictions and 2 acquittals. And so how can you try people for providing material support to something that, according to a jury, didn't happen and doesn't exist? You know, it is remarkable. So they had to do the very quick retrial of Adam and Barry before they did the first state trial of Pete Musico, Paul Bellar, and Joe Morrison. So they could then rush to say convicted DTs, but those men were not allowed to mention the guys who were acquitted at the same trial. Anyways, I am not going to get into this because I will start seething and screaming, and nobody wants to hear that. I'm sorry. But anyways, imagine this. You spend 3 years waiting because this whole thing is a sham and it's being set up and they're just trying to rig the outcomes. It came down to myself as well as two other very brave souls named Bill and Michael Null. Yes, they also, and Eric and the Nulls, all three of them testified. And I will say that usually defense lawyers caution their clients not to testify because you're opening yourself up to basically being verbally attacked by prosecutors who are highly trained in deception and manipulation tactics, and they try to get you off kilter. They try to ask you confusing questions. They try to trip you up and get you in a gotcha. They'll walk you backward in time, then they'll take you forward in time, then they'll go back in time, and then the things that they do to try to confuse you and while they're firing rapid fire questions at you, not giving you a chance to even respond before they're on to something else. It's like a very difficult process to go through, and if you haven't been trained in how to deal with something like that, you might blow up. You might call somebody a name, or you might get upset, or you might make a mistake and then get accused of perjury, and that's really their goal. So taking the stand is really, it was brave to do it, but I think that it needs to happen, especially in cases like this where the government has already convicted these men in the media, like the day after they were arrested. There was no, there was no fairness or due process or assumption of innocence for any of these men. All three of us had the same charges: providing material support of a T or T organization on one count of felony firearm, found not guilty by a jury of our peers unanimously. The judge said, "You gentlemen are free to go," like nothing ever happened. No apology, no explanation of what actually just happened to our lives. We still feel this weight. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they say it's over, but if you are the one experiencing it and it was you facing 20 years in prison away from your children, it doesn't feel like it's over just because they claim it's over, especially when you understand how they prey upon people, how they target them. And it hasn't been over for Brandon Caserta, one of the other 5 men who was acquitted, we should also add, by 2 different juries. So 2 different juries saw through this hoax. Brandon they're still going after him. They're still running informants at him, trying to get him for other things. So this isn't over for these men, and they haven't been made whole. The FBI comes in, they tear apart your house, they cut up your vehicles, they rip out the seats, and they destroy all of your property. They don't have to reimburse you for that. No, especially if they're wrong, if you're found innocent, oh, whoopsie, we made a mistake. They don't even, no public apology to these men, nothing. And they still have to live, by the way, in the state of Michigan with Whitmer as their governor, the so-called victim in this hoax. Imagine that. And you're basically there, stuck at the mercy of her whims, and you all know how vindictive and nasty she is. She can't even pretend to be pleasant for a 2-minute-long puff piece interview with public access TV there in Michigan. Like, my goodness. This is also a major reason why nobody wanted to kidnap that woman. Nobody wants to be in a room with it, let alone be stuck with it for several hours or whatever. And again, what were they even going to do? Drive her out to the middle of the lake and leave her there to make, cause a hassle for her security detail? Nothing was going to happen. There was no plan. They talked about flying her over the lake on a kite. Did anybody really think that they were going to be preparing their tactical kites? I mean, it's nonsensical and so bizarre. But this is real life, and this actually happened. So because they've experienced this, that has kind of lit a fire in them that they don't want to see this happen to anybody else, having personally lived through and experienced it. And if you haven't, you don't know what these people have seen and been through. they don't want this to happen to anybody else, and they don't want this to be the future they leave to their children. So they would like to run for elected office. I know Eric wants to run for maybe something small and local to him. I know he talked about maybe doing a school, getting on the school board or something, starting out small like this. But that's a big problem for him, having been diagnosed with CPTSD. That is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. It is very real. It is very difficult. This contributes to his social anxiety, depression. He has trouble being in public places for long periods of time. It's hard for him to focus on tasks. He's in counseling right now for the PTSD, but it's difficult to function or maintain any kind of job. And he's never had to deal with something like this as a man who has children that you've always provided for and taken care of, to be in a position where you're no longer able to function in the way that you have been as a man is very difficult. I'm sure everyone can appreciate what that must feel like. And to have to ask for help is also very hard. He's always been a good worker. He's always enjoyed working. He has child support he's backed up on because while all of this was going on, you can imagine the legal system is expensive. It's expensive to hire a private attorney because these court-appointed lawyers, as you know, had he done that, he'd be in prison right now. And so he has child support that, and part of the reason he lost his kids was, again, because he was framed in a fake hoax that wasn't real. So he lost his children. Then he has all this backed up child support he has to pay. And if you don't do that, well, guess what? They can throw you in prison for that. So they might be trying to throw him back in jail now. So he has those payments he has to make, and that's difficult for him also. As a father, you want to support and provide for your family, especially your children. He wants to attend the Pathfinder school. He wants to take those courses. Of course, that stuff costs money, and he would like to use those courses to build up a business so that he can offer those courses himself. He wants to be an instructor. He likes teaching people things. He likes being outside, and that's something more suited to him, where he wouldn't have to be around tons of people and things that would exacerbate the PTSD and things of that nature. So he does have a background in medical training. He loves stuff like that. But he's hoping to raise enough money to take these classes and to build a foundation where he can kind of start to get his life back. I know Brandon is having trouble. He's struggling as well. All of these men are. They just don't talk about it because they're real men, and real men, like, they don't put their problems on other people. They feel like this is their responsibility. But I am coming to you guys as a woman. I don't feel those things, and I can tell you that I don't think less of these people, that they were victimized by the world's most powerful government, and what happened to them they didn't deserve. So they shouldn't feel bad about asking for help, but I understand why they might. So I'm doing it for them. And I can tell you that all 5 of the men that have been acquitted need help. All 5 of the men still incarcerated for this hoax trying to appeal need help. And their families need help. They're all struggling. Even the ones that have been acquitted, it's not like you get your life back or things magically go back to the way they were. No, you have to dig yourself out of the hole they just dug for you and threw you in. They dig this massive grave for you because they want to bury you alive, and they throw you down into this hole, and they start, dumping the dirt on top of your head and filling in the hole as you're down there trying to claw your way out, or you're going to suffocate. That's literally what they're doing to these people. So yeah, you need help to dig yourself, claw your way out of that hole. And I know what that's like, having, been homeless as a teenager. I know what it's like. And so, yes, you do need help. I needed help. I was so lucky that I had people that let me sleep on their couch, and I had people that helped me and gave me a chance, because very bad things could have happened to me, and I may not be alive if I hadn't gotten the help that I needed. And it was hard to ask for help, you know, back then. It's a issue of pride. This would be his source of income, and he also wanted to thank his lawyer, who took a case that was destined for a bad end and fought harder than anyone he's ever known. He said because of his lawyer's dedication, loyalty, trust, and faith, he was allowed to walk out of those doors. So he feels like he's been very blessed. He does speaking engagements. If anyone wants to hire him for a speaking engagement, he's like a fantastic person to speak on what has happened to him. But he wants to do those things. Doing it is difficult. Public speaking is hard, especially with the anxiety, depression, the PTSD, but he feels a duty to do it. And nobody else can speak and advocate for these men better than somebody who narrowly escaped being them, right? Like, he could be in Supermax with Adam Fox and Barry Croft and Paul Bellar, or I'm sorry, he could be in Supermax with Adam and Barry right now, or he could be in federal prison with Paul Bellar, Joe Morrison, and Pete Musico. And why those men are still in there is beyond me, when half of these guys have been acquitted by 2 different juries and everyone knows that this wasn't real and that this was a hoax, and yet here we are. So if anyone can help Eric, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I'd see it as a personal favor to me. And these men, they deserve it. And I would say also to politicians, people like Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, any of these people, any of these candidates that are running, why don't you reach out to Eric and Brandon and the other men who were acquitted in this hoax? Why don't you reach out to them and offer to have them speak at your campaign events? These would be the perfect speakers to talk about what it's like to be targeted in this. You know, Vivek wants to bring up this case all the time. Well, why not offer these men a platform and a chance to speak for themselves with you? Bring them up there with you. What would be more powerful than that? And give them that platform and that chance. Okay, so that's all I have to say. I will, of course, include the link to this in the video description, and I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.